Woohoo! And we are live. Welcome to Spiritpreneur School. I am your host, Abiola Abrams, and today we are speaking with Natalie Marie Shapiro. This is going to be a power-packed conversation. This episode of Spiritpreneur School is sponsored by my new exciting program, the Become the Guru Bootcamp, which is a part of Sacred Business Academy. So right now there is a free Spiritpreneur Success Strategy course that I've created just for you to celebrate the launch of the Become the Guru program. And you can find lesson number 1 of 4 right now if you head over to bombshellmybusiness.com, bombshellmybusiness.com. Now, today's guest, Natalie Shapiro, comes bearing gifts as well. But before we see her beautiful face, let me just tell you all about this miracle worker and light worker. Natalie Marie Shapiro is a strategic coach, blogger, and yogi, empowering women to find peace with food and the love for their bodies. Her work supports women to break through the shame and anxiety that keep us from showing up to life as our most authentic and powerful selves. Natalie works with women one-on-one, guiding them to transform fight into freedom. She is the creator also and the host of the Empowered series. I was honored to be a guest on the Empowered series, and so you want to head over to her site and take a look at that, subscribe. And it's a series that showcases women who are connected to self, living bold lives and leading examples of what the outcome of deep self-value and freedom look like. Natalie would like to offer you the Stop Feeling Out of Control with Your Food and Body guidebook. She's going to tell you later how you can get that. The guidebook explores intuitive and emotional eating, the In Control, Out of Control playbook, the reality of fear, and how to be at home in your own body. Natalie, welcome to Spiritpreneur School.
Hello, lovely. Thank you for that beautiful welcome. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for being there. So that's the official bio, but I want to hear from you, Natalie. Who are you? Who is this woman? Tell us all about you.
Who am I? That is my official bio, yes. But in addition to that, I'm just somebody who really loves people, and I love women, and I love really supporting people and stepping into that freedom. In everything I do, in yoga and coaching with women, in my friendships, I think a big part of what I do and who I am is showing up as somebody who really likes to and finds passion in helping people step deeper into themselves. And I think that is just something that comes through into myself, and it's something that I'm always seeking within me. And I do that in a lot of different ways in life. I love travel. I love dance and movement. I'm definitely a Pisces. I'm a meanderer, always kind of meandering between reality and the real thing. And so always kind of playing around and exploring and diving. And I've realized that I'm always going to be doing soul work and on a journey because I want to keep exploring.
Beautiful. We are such kindred sisters on this journey, Natalie, and I want to know more. Tell us the story behind the story. How did you get started, and how did you find this line of business, or did it find you?
Yeah. There's kind of multiple avenues to dive into there. I was never somebody that felt comfortable going into like a 9-to-5 sort of job. I always felt that constriction in that space. And so it was never really on my radar. And so after years of kind of just traveling and working service jobs, I was always very much into health and wellness, but simultaneously had my own stuff going on with food and body image while still being interested in health foods and all of this sort of stuff. So I actually started a nutrition and wellness coaching practice years back, and was working mostly with women, but worked with some men as well, and doing nutrition and wellness work. So some stuff around weight loss, energy, holistic modalities, stuff like that. And then it kind of transitioned into this after working with people and realizing, mostly with women, that I was actually perpetuating a larger cycle around food and body image. a larger sort of problem paradigm that I was seeing that I didn't want to perpetuate anymore. And so that's when I kind of stepped out of that field and decided that I wanted to be working with women directly around food and body image, and actually be focusing on healing those issues as opposed to continuing to allow for them to live on.
I think that, you know, that is really, really profound. And I think that a lot of women can relate to your sense of frustration, not only in terms of, you know, what you were going to do with your life and your career, but then not wanting to necessarily perpetuate the status quo. Can you tell us more about what you meant exactly when you made that decision, and what that meant for you when you said, wait a minute, you know, I feel like I'm a part more of the problem than the solution?
Yeah. And I want to preface this with, I think the world of health coaching is beautiful and a great addition to what's going on in the world around us, especially within the health field. But I think there's a lot of responsibility that as health coaches that we need to hold. And I think that there's a particular amount of training that we receive that doesn't allow for us to really fully, in my perspective, responsibly talk to people about their health. Especially when it comes to people that are coming to you for the feelings of being frustrated with their bodies, or feeling like they don't have a good relationship with food. When people are in that space already, and then they're coming to a coach like how I wasn't in the program that I had, it wasn't set up in a way to actually help them heal it. I wasn't set up in a way for them to actually find peace with food and with their bodies. It was more so set up in a way to further the process of control around it, and fear and shame and calorie counting and exercise the days, and lots of scheduling and rigidness. And what actually needs to happen for people that are in that space is surrender and release and letting go. And so that was where I realized it needed to actually, the focus needed to go for the work that I actually wanted to be doing, what I felt called to do in that space.
Beautiful. When I was looking for a shorthand to describe all that you do, I was calling you a food freedom coach, which
I
to
love
me,
it.
you know, just seemed to fit what you do. Do you have a mantra, a guiding principle, a quote or affirmation, something that guides what you do and who you are?
Ooh, yeah. If an affirmation, this may not be directly answering your question, but an affirmation that I like to keep and I like to share with people to use is, I am home. I am home. I am home. I think there's a lot of, it's that feeling of literally like coming home at the end of the day and pulling into your driveway, or getting in your bed and cuddling up, and that feeling of just release and surrender. And that is something that we can carry with us all day. And knowing that you don't need to be anybody else, you don't need to look like anything else, you don't need to have any sort of additional features added to you. You are home as you are in this very moment. And if we can really cultivate that, then like there's infinite possibilities of what unfolds, because we stop feeling the need to change and fix and alter.
Oh, that's just marvelous. That one of my favorite personal affirmations is, I am enough. And the words I am home give me the same feeling, you know, especially when you talk about feeling at home in your own skin and your body, because so many people don't, you know, just don't. And so it makes the work that you do very, very important, I feel. Do you feel like you are answering your calling and living your purpose?
Oh, yeah. I tend to, as that Pisces person that I was describing, there's a lot of like creative flow through me, and there's a lot of things I feel very passionate about and very interested in taking on in those endeavors. But this is definitely something that is really one of those things where a while back I was writing down everything that my client needs. And not even just a particular client, but the person, that woman that I am reaching towards, the woman that I'm supporting in general. And I so deeply knew those feelings. I just had to dig back into where I was years ago, and where I could easily be tomorrow if we weren't working through this self-care, self-love sort of stuff every day. And And it was in that moment that I realized, wow, I have to do this work. And not like you have to do it with your job, but like, wow, I have to do this. Like this is right. And this is where I'm supposed to be. And also knowing that for women that are curious in this work, or for women that are more on the entrepreneurial journey, that I'm choosing this work now, and this is what is calling to me now. And I could be working with women around with food in their bodies for my entire life, but the way in which that work shows up, develop into something new every year, every week. And so my just thought around that is to show up and honor what is being called to you right now, and really show up with it, but know that in your heart, like, it's not permanent. Like it doesn't have to be. And for me, that's actually relieving, and knowing that I actually get to continue this creative process around this thing that is much more sturdy, you know, food and body image, but it can evolve into something new. And like with you, so many beautiful projects coming out of your world, and knowing that even though you're choosing one sort of general cohort of women, in a sense, that you get to continue that creative transformational process within your work, within yourself. So yeah, long answer short, I do feel like it's my calling, and I also feel a big sense of freedom within it.
Beautiful. So Natalie, what do you believe? What is your answer to that question? What do you believe?
What do I believe? I believe that we are all so capable. I believe that we really all have the power to show up and do what we want to be doing. I think there's a lot of holdback around that. There's a lot of fear around things. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot going on around us in the world that can really create overwhelm. Just even looking through your Instagram feed in the morning, your social media feeds, that can create a lot of uncertainty about your capacity to do something or create something. And so I believe that every one of us is capable of creating what we want to create.
Yes, I feel like, you know, an overriding theme, as you said, is surrender, you know, in every aspect of, you know, the advice that you're giving and the stories that you're sharing, is the feeling of, you know, surrendering to yourself, surrendering to, you know, the highest good, surrendering to love, surrendering to your calling. There's this feeling of surrender. Is that something also that you feel like is a powerful part of what you offer?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in the work, and then just what we're talking about in general, I think that it's that climbing, or, you know, swimming upriver idea that we think that we need, especially going into business and entrepreneurial world. It is a lot of work. You know, there is a lot of time that you have to put into it. There are moments of fear and doubt. But then there's also, through that, there's that like that ongoing idea of surrender, of letting and allowing and surrendering into the fear, in a sense, surrendering into the what's potentially feeling chaotic, and just kind of allowing for that to be within that space. And knowing that just because you surrender, it actually isn't always going to take away the difficulties. I was actually having a conversation with some friends the other day, and we were talking about what it means to, as opposed to swim upstream, to just kind of flow downstream. And even though you're in flow and surrender, like, you're still going to run into brush and rocks and sticks and waterfalls. Like, flow doesn't mean that everything is going to be perfect, but it means that you are going to be more fluid with it, and it's going to take a lot less strain and pressure on yourself to do it.
Yes, yes, indeed. So if someone is watching this, and audience, I want to encourage you, please, to ask questions. The best way to do it so that they come directly to us is there's a blue Q&A box that is on the bottom. If you're watching this live, there's a blue Q&A box. Click that and add in of Natalie. Okay, so Natalie, then what do you do personally when you do feel doubt or fear or, you know, questioning, and what's your concrete advice for someone who is watching this, who wants to answer her calling, or who maybe is answering her calling or living her purpose, but feels a tremendous sense of fear in all of its faces?
Right. Yeah. I would say what would be my piece of advice around that so much is know that you can, like, know that there's always the opportunity to step into that space. And I just want to make sure I'm answering the question correctly. What, can you repeat it one more time just so I can be sure? Look up a little bit.
You talked about doubt, and you talked about fear. And so my question is twofold. It's, number one, what do you do when you feel that fear or doubt? And then number two, what do you advise someone who is watching this, who may be, wherever she is on the journey of, answering her calling or finding her purpose or creating her business? What is your advice for that person in dealing with their fears and doubt?
Okay, good clarity. What do I do? First of all, I'm a child of movement and sunshine, and California child for sure. And so for me, when I'm like feeling that uncertainty, there's a couple different things I do, but one of the main things that I know that supports me in bringing me back to center and calming down and realizing how capable I actually am and getting out of that doubt space is movement. That can show up through yoga, through dance, through hooping, which I recently bought and I'm falling in love with so deeply. Or all of those together. Before our call today, I actually had my yoga mat out with my little jam box, my hula hoop, and it was just a whole sort of montage of movement. And so for me, that is just what allows for me to just to come back to it, to come back home to myself every time. Every time. It can be dealing with doubt around anything. It could be dealing with fear, stress, just uncertainty, even fatigue. And knowing to come back to that for me is huge. That movement is what really liberates me from all of that. And it's kind of just like, and you surrender into the movement, and I love it. And so what would my advice be for other women is, first, try moving, like try something that allows for you to move out of your brain and into your body. That's really big. And then also, if movement isn't calling to you, find something that does. There's always the choice of when you're in fear and mode, like to, instead of stepping into a space that liberates you from it, you step into a space that kind of numbs it. And that could be like turning on the TV, or for many women that are watching, it may be food. So lots of different stuff. And we all have like a big thing that I teach in my coaching is we all have our coping tools. We all have things that we use to cope: movement, food, television, friends, our pets. And all of those are okay. Not food isn't any better or worse than movement, but it's how we use them all in a way that's responsible and in balance. And so in that moment, choose something that is really allowing for you to step into a higher place. And sometimes you just need to be quiet and just shut down, and that's okay. But check in with yourself and see if that's what you always go for. And if that is, choose something, start to integrate even once a week, something that you know is actually going to take you higher and is going to allow for you to actually expand and have more energy through the rest of your day, as opposed to something that just halts everything that's going on. So choosing something that can really allow for you to surrender and release that guilt, release the shame, release the fear, release the doubt, and also it's going to lift you up and move you forward into your day.
Lovely. I had actually a few weeks ago on Spiritpreneur School, Bex Burton was on, and she is a nationally known hooper. She built a business that she loves out of hooping, that she is, proof that you can really create something from whatever you love. Right. And in terms of the movement piece, the piece of becoming at home in your body, for me, movement has been a big part of that over the past few years as I've become more and more at home in my body and surrendering to my body, because for a long time I was living in my head, or I was living in my spirit, and, forgetting the big key part of it, this one wonderful, thing that we have, which is our bodies. And so I think that is really, really great advice. You have a question coming in from Rhonda R. And Rhonda wants to know, let's see, put it a little bit long. I'm going to condense it a little bit here, Rhonda, that she wants to know if she is building a new coaching practice, health coaching practice, what is the structure of your business, and how do you get clients? How do clients find out about you?
Well, it depends on how clients find out about you. Obviously depends on the structure of your business. So for me, my business is twofold. I want to be supporting women in a way that is deep in my heart, and I also want to live a life in a way that really models the way I want to set my business up in a way that really complements the way I want to live my life. And so the structure of my business, the way I've set it up, is completely virtually. So I'm moving into that online world where people find out about me through social media, through marketing. Obviously, there are some local events and networking things that I do. Any sort of support around that is incredible. But really, for me, it's getting into the online community. And right now, it's especially trying to do so because everybody's moving into that virtual world. And so it really takes every day ongoing sort of pushing through that space and pushing into that space in order to actually create that. So for me, and then within that model of my program, my main coaching program is a 6-month program where I work with women twice a month over that 6-month period, which is a relatively standard idea of what many coaching practice programs actually teach the students to do. And for me, I've personally found that to be the best amount of time when I'm actually working with women within the field I'm working with. If you're a health coach in different sort of fields, obviously or any sort of coach in different fields, you can play around with what your clients need within a certain amount of time. If you can fix it up and all, get everything clean and in a good place within a couple of months, then offer that, like really make sure that you're offering them a package that is really serving them. And I would say that that's kind of a main question to always ask is, how am I taking care of my clients and what do they really need? As opposed to, how can I hold on to them the longest? Because when you're trying to really hold on to them, you're kind of extending the program longer than it needs to be, and it's losing its value. And I'm kind of emphasizing this because I think there are a lot of programs that do push that 6-month period where it's really up to you and the program that you're offering to really get into and really understand and feel what you need to offer them and how much time it really needs. So that's just something I would definitely recommend. And so to answer that, another part of that question, how am I finding clients? How am I reaching out to people? First and foremost, find your tribe. Like, find your network of other entrepreneurs that are in your field or in relative fields that you're in that really want to be a part of your team in some way. And I consider this wonderful woman in front of me a tribe member and a sister in this world. We're doing slightly different work, but we are definitely, I feel, in support of her and in support of each other. And we've both welcomed each other into our series and interviews that we're doing. And that alone feels really, I feel supported in my field. And then seek support is another thing I would recommend is seek support. We may jump into this, but in addition to finding your tribe, find your mentors. Find people that inspire you. Find people that can give you the most incredible advice that just makes it feel so easy to implement, that really get what you're doing. That's really big too. Get to people, find people that get what you're doing. And that's just going to spark you and inspire you and make you that much more apt to actually go through with some of the hurdles that may come up in the journey ahead. Yeah.
Yes. So what are some of those hurdles that have come up for you as you've been building your business?
Yeah. I think the first one that we've kind of touched on in many ways is fear. Fear, I think, can be a really big sort of part of this journey. And especially if, for me, this going into this coaching practice, as opposed to my first nutrition and wellness coaching practice, this one has been much scarier for me, in a sense that I'm showing up much more vulnerably. I'm showing up with much more of my feeling like it's my soul's work and not just like the work I'm choosing to do. And so that for me has been scary at moments and vulnerable. There's moments where I've like went to push out a newsletter or post something and just like excuse my language, in a sense, like holding down the vomit, in a sense, like feeling just the anxiousness of, oh my gosh, I'm telling my soul, I'm just letting these people see it all, and feeling naked in a sense. So that has been a bit of a hurdle, but not in like it hasn't stopped me. It's those, but you feel that moment very strongly. But just do it. Like, just press the button. There's even, I use MailChimp. This isn't a MailChimp plug, by the way. When you go to send your MailChimp newsletter out, there's like a little gorilla hand, and there's sweat coming off of it. And like, are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm like, am I sure? Here's for you, of course. But yeah, so I feel that gorilla hand sweat often. So that's a hurdle. Another one can just be, I think, within the realm of moving into entrepreneurship, is really finding your voice and staying true to it. And I found at the beginning of my practice, especially as I moved into this coaching realm, that when I was putting a lot of information out there, I was putting it out there to try and appease the audience I already had, as opposed to reach the audience I was trying to get to. And so, recommendation there. Say that again, because that's a big piece of the puzzle. Please say that again. Yeah. So I'll say it in a slightly different way. So instead of appeasing the people that you already have in your audience, reach out and appease and reach out to the people that you are trying to get to. Use your voice in a way that is actually going to be resonating with the audience you are trying to reach. And that for me was a big sort of, was a pretty good big hurdle, in a sense that I didn't feel it until I didn't know it until I realized it. It was like a one day breakthrough. I realized what was going on. And then from that moment I shifted, and I was like, okay, I can't be doing this anymore. So to kind of answer another question before, that's how you get your clients. That's how you reach out to people, is find out and really figure out in your heart who you're reaching out to, and speak to them. Tell them what you know, let them know, and share with them how you support them. You know, like, they have a problem, you have the solution. So talk to them about it. You don't need to be talking to the other people and family and, maybe friends or other people in your community. Talk to the people you're trying to reach.
Well said. Well said. And I think that, you did something that I think that a lot of business owners, coaches, speakers, authors, us spiritpreneurs need to do. I just did a whole video lesson about, you niche down. You were a kind of a general health coach, and now you only, your practice is focused on women and body image issues and food healing, something very specific. And I think a very scary, frightening, terrifying thing for a lot of spiritpreneurs is moving from feeling like, well, I serve everyone, to, no, these are the people that I serve. And there's power in that, but it's also scary because people feel like, but, I don't want to lose, interest or clients or customers. Can you please speak to the power of that and tell us a little bit more?
Yeah. I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, or another interview series, and there was somebody was talking exactly about this, and it resonated so much with me. It's this idea that if I'm super broad, then I'll get everybody. I'll be the great white of the ocean. And what it really comes down to is when you find a little bit more of that niche, or that niche, however you want to say it, you're going to get so much better at what you do. Not that you're not already incredible, I'm sure, but like, in trying to work with so many people in such a large range, you're having to build a lot of skill sets. You're having to learn a lot of different tools to learn to work with a lot of different people in varying settings, with varying issues, and whether that's health coaching or life coaching or whatever entrepreneurial world you're going into. But if you can really find out who that person is that you're working with, I mean, even you could sit down and write like a 3-page paper on one person. Like, who is your client? Like, what does she or he look like? Where do they live? How old are they? Do they have children? Like, just all of these things. What is their life story like? So you can really get to understand them. And this is what my mentor actually told me to do. And I loved it because it really allowed for me to know her. Like, I know her, I know you, and it's such a beautiful process. And by really finding that person or that group that you want to work with, you're going to get so much better at working with that person. And your skill set is going to grow exponentially this way, as opposed to like, or this way more so, as opposed to just like this little like one thing, Like, you're going to be able to focus on one person, but know so many ways and tools on how to work with that person. And so that's going to show in your work, and you're going to show up as knowledgeable and intelligent and professional and really capable of working and showing up as a leader in that field, if you really choose the person that you're trying to reach out to.
Yes, yes. I have my coaching clients do the exact same exercise, building the avatar. Who is this person? Know everything about her. What does she eat? Where does she shop? What does she watch? What does she listen to? Everything. Tell us about your mentor, your great mentor who gave you this exercise. Let's talk about women and mentorship and who has been of support to you.
Yeah. Well, I'll just give her a shout out. Her name's Lynanne Saperstein. She's the founder of The Big Factor. Literally, like, the big factor. What is your big factor? And so she has actually been an ongoing mentor to me. I had mentioned earlier that I'd never really worked I never felt called to work a 9-to-5. For 7 months I did. And it was like an in-between. It was right when I stopped my nutrition and wellness coaching practice. And when I was just ending those clients and chose not to take more clients, I used this other job as kind of a transitionary, like a bridge job, as I was rebuilding. And I found her there. I actually, I was doing sales for a health and wellness company. And it was a software health and wellness company. And I happened to reach out to her for something. And the second she picked up the phone, I was like, I'm not selling this girl anything. Like, I want to work with her, like, I knew it right away. And so I would just say, don't work with people, just to like little side note, because they're telling you should work with them. Work with them because you don't feel like you have any choice but not to.
Yes.
Like, that's how it felt. I was like, I have to. Like, it just was a duh sort of thing. Like, of course. And it was a couple years actually before I started working with her, and I'm actually in her mastermind right now. With other awesome people that are starting businesses or in businesses or successful businesses, all sort of realms of people and business owners. And so that's been great. And they're mentors. So let your colleagues, in a sense, let your people within your tribe in that same space, they can also be mentors.
Yeah. And, that's the power of knowing your tribe, who it is that you serve, who the people are, who are your peers, because then when you recognize each other, that it's a powerful thing.
Right.
And so, you're not for everyone. I'm not for everyone. This coach is not for everyone, but for the people that are her tribe or your tribe or my tribe, it's like it's a sense of recognition.
Yeah, I say this in my consults with potential clients, and I think it goes around in a lot of different ways. Like, when you're finding your tribe or your mentor or your client, even, like, it's a two-way interview.
Yes.
Not in the traditional sense, but for example, with my clients, I want to be sure that I'm a good fit for you. I want to be sure I can support you, and I want you to make sure that you feel safe and supported, and like you can actually get support from me. And it's the same thing, I think, with mentors. And I think that people that really you want to work with are the people that show up in that way right away, where they're already showing you they're taking care of you. You already feel taken care of. And they're not, for me at least, it doesn't feel like a push. It kind of goes back to what we were saying. It's that yes. And they're just as much checking in on you and making sure you are a good fit for them, even in a very casual mentorship sort of way. So yeah, it works.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So who is the rest of your support team professionally, personally? What does it look like? Do you work with virtual assistants or a full-time assistant? Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I'm just in the process of playing with a VA, of playing in that direction. I'm definitely I want to do it all myself type of person. And surrender. Hey, how about that?
Yeah.
And learning that it's okay to get help, you know, and that was another thing I was listening to the other day is about expanding your team and knowing that when you invest in a team, like it's just going back into what you're creating. You know, I think a lot of people, money's a very sensitive thing, and it's okay, I'm just getting rid of money. These are things that I could be doing myself, but you're investing in yourself, you're investing in your business, you're investing in somebody else. So I think that's really great. So I'm still in the very early stages of moving into that space, and barely, like little. But that being said, though, I have a lot of people at my disposal, in a sense, around me that I know can support me with things, you know, and just even within my mastermind program, I pose a question about needing anything from a VA to design to coaching advice to whatever it is, and I get immediate responses. And I feel like I have 24/7 support. And so that has been huge for me and super, super supportive. Yeah, so I would just say in regards to that is just build your team around people and they don't have to be people you pay. You know, a team, of course, is people part of that, but it's also just people within that tribe, you know, people that are in that support network with you and that are there to support you and you're there to support them. And we all have different tools and different skill sets when it comes to directly what we're working with people around and also what we're doing in the background of our business. And so just know that you need to show up for somebody and allow for somebody to show up for you too, like allow for that support.
Beautiful. Well, you have a gorgeous website, Natalie, and what's wonderful is that when I'm on your site, when I'm on your blog, when I'm viewing your video content, that it feels like you, which is, you know, like the best way to explain it. A woman came up to me on the street once. I had on sunglasses, I had on a hood. It's New York, sometimes it's cold. And I was like, how did you know there was me? She's like, I'm always on your site. I'm always watching your videos. And it felt like you, and I'm looking at you and it feels like you. And so I feel the same way about your content. Can you tell us about building your blog, building your site, the aesthetics of it, how that all came about?
Yeah. I've built the whole thing, and I'm finally in a space where I'm like, it's good. I don't need to play with it. And my site has been like, it's my means of procrastination. If I don't feel like doing something, I'm going to go on my website and like for hours. It's such a thing. So I'm working on that.
It's justified procrastination.
Oh
That's what I call it, because I'm like, you're procrastinating, but you're like, but I need to do this. And
yeah, it's like, hey, everybody, light bulb, like find out what your like path of least resistance is when you don't want to do something. And even if it's productive, like there's still probably something else you should be doing. So just pay attention to that, or could be doing more so. But how am I getting kind of my website? How did I get it to where it is? Everything I do now, this is a big thing in the coaching thing I was in before, the coaching practice I was in before, was it didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel truly in line with who I was and who I was at that point. And there was a lot of things I was saying and doing that I felt like it was make-believe, it was pretend. And so moving into my new coaching practice as I was back into the space, my number one question when I do mostly anything is this what I want? Is this who I am? Is this how I feel? Do I feel represented here? Is this my voice? And that's something I think that's the biggest one. Is this my voice? And whether it's something aesthetic, whether it's something I'm writing, whether it's an offering, whatever it is this me? Because the bottom line for me is I don't ever want to be the person I'm not. Like I don't ever want to be anything but myself, even in business. And so what I realized, and I think that was also a big focus on moving into this realm with women as I am now, is because I felt like what I was coaching before was pretend. I was kind of coaching what I was told to coach, but that didn't feel right. And so this just was like, oh, well, this is what I want to be saying, so this is what I'm going to do. So number one for me is always checking in, is this really in line with my truest self? And letting that shine through. And not being concerned about what somebody's going to say about that, you know, like going through those little fear hurdles of, okay, this is me totally authentically There's vulnerability in that, but there's also a ton of freedom, because as this develops, I just get to keep showing up as me. And that really takes out a lot of the work, because I don't have to make anything up. I mean, there's those creative processes, of course, that you have to pull stuff out, but I get to just be me. And so I would say, if you're developing anything from your website to whatever, like, show up as you. Do it exactly what you want, and as yourself, what feels good, what feels right, and go with that.
Yeah, that is well said, my sister. Well said. And so tell us about one of the really cool things is that with your Empowered series, which we mentioned in the very beginning, that it's a part of your community building. I think that from what I remember from our personal conversation, I think that you also use Wishlist Member. Is it Wishlist Member that you use? I can't remember. But tell us about doing the membership part of the site.
Yeah. So I don't have a full membership, but what I've realized is you can offer things that don't cost money, right? But that doesn't mean that you just have to completely give it away. If you're offering something that has a value, allow for people to become a part of that community. Allow for them to get updates about it. You know, I think the word allow is key here. You're not putting people in a box. They can press unsubscribe very easily. It's not a hard thing. But when they want to watch something, you know, I've created my Empowered series where all of the pages are alive and are active and available and accessible. But to watch the video, it requires an opt-in. It requires a password, which you receive once you opt in. And then once you opt in, you become a part of my inner circle and receive kind of weekly tidbits, blog posts, things like that, along with any sort of gifts I have going out, and then future information about upcoming series or interviews within the series. And so a big part of that is allow for people to have the opportunity to sign up for what you're offering. And it doesn't have to be salesy. It doesn't have to be pushy. If they want it, they'll sign up for it. And that's really that simple. I've had very, very few people actually unsubscribe. You know, the number of people subscribing to watch these interviews or to receive my gifts is very much higher in comparison to people that are unsubscribing that may have just wanted to watch one of the interviews or something like that, which is perfectly fine as well. And so just setting it up in a way that allows for you to reach your tribe. And I think that also goes back to the way to get clients. The question from earlier is make sure have what you're offering in line with what you're doing. The interview series is slightly, outside of the particular realm of coaching, but it's working with women around empowerment and self-love, which I think is such a great light box for the women that I'd be working with. But overall, just allow for them to have the space to find you. And then once they find you and they can become part of your inner circle, is what I call mine, is it allows for them to get to know you. It allows for them to build trust with you. And especially within my line of work, women need to build trust with me before they're like, yeah, let's do this. I'm signing up. That happens, but more often than not, they want to build trust with you first. They want to learn about who you are. And by getting them on your newsletter, by getting them into that list, you're connecting with them every week, maybe twice, maybe every other week, depending how often you send out newsletters. And that really gives them a chance to see the value in who you are and what you offer. So don't be afraid to have some sort of opt-in. Don't be afraid to grab emails, because that's a beautiful way for you to actually connect with people and show them who you are and what you offer and the value of what you're working with. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And many spiritpreneurs tend to be, like I know I am a very highly sensitive person, and we tend to be, very empathic, which is a wonderful thing, but then it kind of leaves our energy loops sometimes open if you don't know how to properly ground yourself. And this relates to a question that just came in from Charisse M. And she wants to know, how do you deal with rejection? Clients who don't want to work with you anymore, people who unsubscribe, people who reject your writing. How do you deal with rejection in your business?
Yeah.
Personal.
That's been interesting. It kind of goes back to when I realized to stop appeasing the people that weren't my main focus. And when I started doing that, I was losing. People were unsubscribing, you know, social media followers were going down, and like it was interesting. And I'm actually just I'm just amping my social media game right now. So that's even not something that was like first priority for me, but it's starting to happen. But even then, I saw that starting to just like, ooh.
And that can be scary. I experienced that when you switch, and then it's like, you know, you're switching, you're honing in on your tribe, but for the other people who may have been there for something different, it's not what they were into.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, you open up your Instagram or something and you're like, oh, I have all these new followers. And then you look at it and it's actually like a smaller number. And so first of all, with that sort of stuff, don't even pay attention. Like that's, you know, that's my advice to you. And it's also my advice to myself. Like you don't need to be counting numbers. You don't need to be following that. I mean, just keep showing up, keep doing what you're doing. Every person that says, I want to follow you, every person that says I want to subscribe to you is that one person. And so when I get those, I actually like take a moment and like really think and feel like I've reached somebody. You know, and whether it's a blog post that may change something in them or maybe just plant a seed, like really thinking I've reached somebody. So focusing more on the gaining as opposed to the losing is definitely a big one there. And yeah, just allow for yourself to allow for kindness with yourself. Kindness, because this is all a journey. And so don't be offended if somebody has something negative to say about something you wrote or has something to critique. Using, obviously, critique, there's value in critique. There always is. But then always checking in, like, okay, is that person really unaware and do they really know what I'm trying to say? You know, and I've had a lot of that, a lot of loved ones who give advice about something, but I'm not totally sure that they really are aware of the message that I'm trying to share because they've never been in that space or haven't really been as deep in that space as the woman I'm trying to reach. And so honoring that advice, honoring that critique, honoring the feedback, but then making the choice to utilize it or making the choice to say, no, I've got this. And so just knowing that you don't have to take everything you receive, but honoring too that when people do give you that, most of the time it's with love, but it's what they know, and what they know.
Yes, yes. And Nadia wants to know. She wants to know about your marketing. You answered a bit of this, but I'll just still read it. She wants to know how you get viewers for the Empowered series and how you market yourself and attract audience for your online offerings.
Yeah. Well, the Empowered series is in and of itself, it feeds itself through the women I'm interviewing. I'm posting it wherever I can, sending it out to my newsletters, my audience, my subscribers, along with through social media as well. And then I also ask the women to share it with their audiences, and through whether it's their newsletters or their subscribers or whatever social media feeds that they're on. That's really they're announcing that they have this incredible interview. So it's a gift that they get to offer their subscribers as well, their audience as well. But then at the same time, not having, for me, I mean, some people that are doing series like this have it much more. There's more rigidness around it. There's contracts. There's things like that. I didn't feel called to do that in something like this. And knowing that the series are ongoing, like the pages are always live, and they're gonna get ongoing action, and the people that are called to them will be called to them because they're supposed to be. And so obviously, like, putting it out there as much as possible, but also surrendering in it and knowing that the audience that wants to show up and is supposed to show up for it will. And use each other, like use the network, like ask, like for this, I'm sharing this with my audience, just as Ashley shared her interview with me with her audience, and it's just using that each other's networks for that sort of thing as well. And then for my personal practice, it's for me, it's getting right now. I mean, my main goal, not my main goal, but one of my main goals right now is to continue growing my subscribers, my list. Because for me, that seems to be the best way to really get people to know me, as I've said before, really get people to trust me. And so for me, it's offering things like the Empowered series. It's creating free gifts for people to receive once they opt in to my newsletter, to subscribe as subscribers. So it's offering people things that's going to entice them to opt in, so they then can become a part of my personal inner circle, my personal tribe. And then from there, they're going to start to want to be working with me, hopefully at some point, or interested or conversating about it, that sort of thing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. You have a gift. We're going to get to that in a little bit. First, I have a couple more questions for you, Natalie. I wanted to know, what is your North Star? What guides you? What you are challenging?
Yeah, what is my North Star? That's a great one. I don't want to be redundant, but I feel like it's necessary, is that I'm here, I'm home. I'm home. And I think that may be personal to me and my journey, and what really works for me is just coming back to that always. I'm my North Star, I truly am my North Star, and nothing else outside of me can guide me. We're obviously swayed by our environment, but if we really go back to our deepest self, that truth in the core, that's your North Star. Follow your gut, follow your instincts. That's it right there.
I love that answer. Well, my tribe is known as the Sacred Bombshell Tribe, and now the Spiritpreneur Tribe, Sacred Bombshell Tribe of Spiritpreneurs. A sacred bombshell I define as a woman who loves, honors, and cherishes herself in mind, body, and spirit. So, Natalie Shapiro, what makes you a sacred bombshell?
I love it. What makes you a sacred bombshell? I think it's constantly not striving, but diving into those depths, those layers of myself that allows for me to keep just kind of unfolding. I just feel like this, we're waves kind of splashing open, and the inspiration and desire to always kind of deep dive into that space within myself that allows for me to show up mind, body, and spirit in that space, whole and as me. And allowing for that deep dive to continue, and the layers to keep peeling.
Beautiful. So if someone is watching and she wants more Natalie, she wants to know how to work with you and the great gift that you're giving, can you tell us all about your world, your offerings again, and what your wonderful gift is?
Yes, of course. So you can reach me at nataliemarieshapiro.com. That's my website. And I would love for you, the free gift that I'm offering is upon joining my inner circle, you can receive the free guidebook. It's a guidebook to freedom. So it's really a guidebook supporting you and teaching you how to find peace with food, find love for your body, to stop feeling the need to control or feeling out of control with food in your body. So there's 7 steps through that guidebook. Some information on each, along with little tools and little experiments, in a sense, to allow for you to dive deeper into the depths. In addition to that,
so beautiful.
What's that?
I just said that's so beautiful. I love just the way that you explained it.
Thank you. Yeah, and just a little side note, I'm going to be creating something down the road that's actually going to be an extended version of that. So if you do get it and you are in love with it, know that there's more to come. And then also with that, you would be a part of my inner circle and get my little weekly tidbits of stuff and of good information around food and your body, all that self-love, any upcoming interviews for the Empowered series as well. And then to answer your other question, my program, as I said earlier, it is most of my program. The main program is that 6-month-long program. It includes working with me twice a month over that period of 6 months. It includes a follow-up session about 6 weeks after our last session, just as a check-in. And it really is an opportunity for us to dive into what you're doing, what's going on with food in your body. it includes much of what is in the guidebook, and it really allows for us to deep dive into that. But there's so many different facets of that, and you can find more of that at nataliemarieshapiro.com/coaching, and that's my main site with all of the coaching information as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, this has been an incredible conversation. And thank you so much for sharing all of your gifts. Sign up, get that guidebook, get on Natalie's list. She sends out these beautiful emails, and you also want to dive in to the Empowered series and see the conversations that she is having there. Is there anything else you would like us to know, Natalie? Any parting words?
Yeah, just thank you so much for having me. It was an honor to be here. The hour went by very, very quickly. And just for all of you women out there that are on the entrepreneurial journey, just do it. Like, just go for it. And you're incredible, and you know what you want, you know what you need. Just make it happen, do it authentically. And for any women that are out there dealing with food and body image stuff, know too that freedom is totally possible. I've been in the fight, and I know that freedom is possible. So just breathe into that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Natalie. I feel enriched by this conversation. Leave me a comment, get in touch. Let me know what you thought of this conversation, and let's continue to grow and build from here. I'm feeling very energized. And so the next step is for you to take action, that it's one thing to hear these wonderful conversations and to bask in the glow and be like, oh, that's great what Natalie said, or that's great what Abiola said. But then, once you have surrendered to yourself and you're feeling at home in yourself, then you want to take some kind of movement, toward being the person you want to be, living the life you want to live, loving your body, whatever it is. And so the current offering that I have for you, if you go to bombshellmybusiness.com, then you will get you'll get lesson 1 of my free Spiritpreneur Success Strategy course. And let's continue to do this and grow with each other. So thank you so much for watching. Namaste. The Sacred Bombshell in me sees, adores, and accepts the Sacred Bombshell in you. Bye.